Showtime.
And we've got a show.
Excellent.
So, hey everybody, it's Eric Fennell here again. And I want to welcome my guest today. Her name is Sarah Reichert. And she is a coach consultant. And a mom of 4 great kids, one of whom is very good friends with my son. And so we have been friends at least as long as they have been friends. And yeah, I'm just really, really glad to invite Sarah to the Cigawi podcast. So welcome, Sarah.
Thank you, Eric. Super happy to be here.
Cool. So here we are in rainy Berlin. And
Indeed, but what's new? That's winter.
Yeah, exactly. So how have things been going?
Things are good. Things are, living in the time that we live in, 2022 and COVID and everything. Things can get crazy and hectic and ridiculous, and I find myself getting really mad when I read the news, when I just hear what's going on in the world, and it can bog you down.
Totally.
But in general, it's learning to live with it, learning to integrate it into your daily life and not let it dominate you and your thought process and what you do every day. So managing that, but so all that to say, I'm doing well, succeeding, being happy in my life and my business with my kids, in spite of all the chaos.
Yeah.
That's a long answer.
It's
how you're doing.
No, please. We're in the business of elaboration on
there
this
you go.
podcast. This is not like the quick interview, 7.5 minutes that Jimmy Fallon gets, or even a CNN pundit. This is definitely long form, so feel free to elaborate as much as you like.
All right, thank you.
Speaking of media, how much of our own moods, do you feel like the sort of mass media? Do you get most of your news from like mass media? Of course, we get CNN, and I have to admit I flip that on every once in a while, even though every time I turn it on, it feels more and more like political pundency.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's a real word. But you know what I mean? And so like I'm checking out DW as well. I'm checking out BBC. And, we're also in this amazing information age where anybody can do like what I'm doing right now is sit down with a microphone and talk about the news.
Right.
Talk about what's going on in the world and give them their own opinion, or as they like to call in the news world, spin on exactly what's going on. But yeah, I'm often thinking about that. Like when I talk to my parents, and I call my mom and she's totally freaked out about, the Omicron cases, they're going crazy. Blah, blah, blah. And how much do you think we're influenced by this, by the media?
Well, it is such an overwhelming amount, and we're just constantly bombarded with noise everywhere. You hear it, and even on social media, where I love to stay connected with my family and friends back home, back in the States, and so many friends and family members that I can't contact and keep up to date with. So Instagram, Facebook is a great way to keep up to date, but even that is now, it's just like so much media or, news and opinions and sometimes so divisive. And I guess that's what really irritates me now, the news and everything, like you just said, Omicron, that's just so political. It's so divisive. And if either you have to be hard on the core left or hardcore right, and if you're somewhere in the middle, it's like even there you're not welcome, or your opinion isn't wanted. And so, I feel sometimes overwhelmed.
It's like pick a side, right?
Yeah.
Like people sometimes get on you for that. Well, if you're not with us, you're against us kind of thing.
Exactly. And that's, that's painful. And so I just see that it's really things are so polarized, so divisive at the moment. And it's stressful, it's strenuous, it weighs you down, and it does influence you. And sometimes I like my husband, he's he's my best filter, so to say.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
What a great guy.
Thank you. Yeah. And I'm like, tell me what's going on in the world, because I can't read. You know, I've turned off all notifications from, you know, NBC, CNN,
Good
because it is overwhelming. And I'm like, what do I need to know? And he's like, yeah, okay, you should check this out. You know, like, okay, you brief me, give me the executive, you know, briefing, so to say. But yeah, it does really. So I think we have to be careful that we keep feeding our minds, not just with, you know, the media and these pundits, like you say, and these opinions, but really, okay, stick to the facts, and okay, that's happening. I can't change it, but let's move on. Let's focus on what's really important, you know, let's live our lives and not let it bog us down, because it would. Yeah, totally.
I mean, being in this information age, it almost seems like we are headed for this time where the news will not be presented to us. We will get the facts. I mean, wouldn't that be just great? If you turn on some station, and I don't know, you're from Texas.
Yes.
Did you ever have like these local channels that?
Oh yeah.
You know, like you would from like the 70s and 80s. I remember just like you turn on this local channel and it's basically information about like, oh, the county fair will be open from 8 o'clock in the morning until 12 o'clock at night. Bring your kids, asterisk, 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 you know.
I do.
Today's weather. You know, wouldn't it be nice to sort of get our you know, our COVID information from something like that? I mean, it's so like non-arbitrary, you know. I mean, and then, you know, somebody's going to come on and be like, "Hey, the background colors aren't red, white, and blue. Come on.
Yeah.
Why were they green and yellow yesterday?" And, I don't know.
No, I know. I do remember those small towns. I'm from a small town in East Texas, and so I do remember that local news. And I remember, you know, watching it, and that was normal. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe I was just naive and in my own world, but also I never got this sense of where things are so, I don't know, just like I said, polarized and just so divisive, and for me that's really what irritates me about our culture, our society. We've lost a sense of this togetherness, and even you would think, hey, COVID, a global pandemic, we should, you know, all kind of hold together and support each other.
If anything would bring us together, don't you think it would have been that?
Yes, but it's managed just, we've got these anti-vaxxers and these mandate, you know, get them all vaxxed, you know, and I'm like, why? You know, and no, you're right. I don't know what's wrong with us.
Yeah, it's almost like, you know, one side will use something that the other side said, and they will blow it completely out of proportion. It's kind of like the gun conversation. You know? So, you know, someone on the left says we're gonna institute like gun registration, something like that. And they'll finish their conversation with like, just like we do with cars. You know? And then some political pundit on the right will say they're gonna come and take your guns. They're gonna take your guns.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just be ready when the government rolls up on your lawn and takes your guns.
You're right.
And it's like they do the same. It's like, you know, they'll say, well, we're considering a mask mandate, you know, for only indoor spaces and only government institutions and something like that. And then the other side gets a hold of it and says, you won't be able to get out of bed without your mask. You have to brush your teeth with your mask on. You have to eat with your mask on.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah, I know. Yeah,
it's unbelievable. Like they take it so far.
It's absurd. Yeah, it's right. Where have we come? I mean, look at us as a society, and I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I'm too simple-minded, but I'm just like, let's just be nice to each other and stop bickering, for fuck's sake.
Well, it's no, it's okay.
I'm sorry. You might have to beep that up. I've got a potty mouth.
Yeah, kids, earmuffs. No, by the way, you can swear.
All right.
It's no problem. I think I actually have that listed on my podcast where it's like, you know, it's like explicit.
Yeah, the E for...
Yeah, you can do that on.
Yeah.
I just want to move my phone off the table in case it like vibrates and you know somebody thinks we're having an earthquake or something.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, part of me wants to think like, is this something that's coming from like the top down? You know, are we all sheep? And then there's people that think they're acting like some kind of shepherd, you know, and they are. This is not conspiratorial. I'm not saying this like it's conspiratorial. I'm saying like, these companies, these mass media companies like CNN and Fox and MSNBC, you know, do they sort of do this to us for the ratings?
Yeah, I'm sure they do. They have to make their money.
Yeah.
And come on, scandal sells, conflict, crisis sells, and that sensationalism is what we want. I mean, that's why. I mean, it's true. That's why we find ourselves watching, reality TV shows. Then we can't turn away from a train wreck because I think there's something that's in us that's like, to let me forget how shitty my life is. Let me look at your life, and this garbage on TV or this crisis, that's happening somewhere. Not to say there aren't crises that happen. Of course there are, and I don't want to downplay them. But but that's what we want. And I think the media is in a way spoon feeding us what we're hungry for. And I don't know what the solution is. But I
was
think,
just about to ask you. So what's the solution?
No, but I think it's like we play into each other. It's like we're codependent.
Yeah.
We need the scandal. We need the crisis. The sensationalism to feed. I don't know what's ever going on inside of us as human beings. I mean,
We talked a little bit about just before we started. We talked a little bit about some of the podcasts that you listen to, like so. And I told you I'll watch CNN for 15 minutes to see what's going on. I'll watch DW a little bit. I'll watch BBC, and then I'll listen to. I don't know if you're familiar with this show called Breaking Points.
Yes, I've heard. I've never seen it though.
It's Crystal Ball and Sagar. I forgot his last name, but they used to be on this show called The Hill, and then The Hill got sort of taken over by a lot of corporate sponsors. And they were saying, you got to spin it this way, you got to spin it that way, and they were just like, no. So they went out on their own, and they made this podcast called Breaking Points, and it just gets like, they have like a subscription plan where you can, you pay a little bit every month, and then you get extra content. You get the podcast before it's released, like on Spotify, that kind of thing. They do a video podcast also, so you get the video, but Sagar is right and Crystal is left. And so they try to approach things from those aspects. And the nice thing is they're friends. So they're like, talking to each other, and they're not like name calling and they're not like over exaggerating things. But, recently I've been listening to it, and there's, what I notice is that when they elaborate on something, it does get a bit of spin. Well,
yeah.
It does get a little bit sensationalist. And I'm just hoping that they just don't go too far. What's really nice, and sort of the reason why I'm doing my podcast like this, I never will have a podcast where it's just me talking. It's always about a guest, because one of the things that I'm most interested in is other people's perspective. I find that other people's perspective enlightens my own, and it only deepens my own. And I think the more we can do that as a society, the better off we'll be.
Yep. 100%. I'm with you, Eric. And I think that's if we take that attitude, it can really enrich our relationships and really keep us from being this us versus them, or you're pro-mask, you're anti-mask, and how dare you. And I think because that is key in interpersonal relationships, into connection. And that's exactly really what I do a lot at work. Part of my business is really I train and I consult professionals, mostly executive level, mid and senior level executives, really to how to lead, how to inspire, how to motivate, kind of lead without banging my fist on the table and say, do it because I'm the boss. No, I want to lead naturally, so like by inspiring we talk about tons of different topics, how to do that, how can I lead, how can I connect with people. And a big thing is, of course, emotional intelligence and my ability to be aware of my emotions and your emotions as my counterpart. If you're my colleague, you're my peer, my employee, or if you're my manager. And I think a big part of that is empathy, and how empathy is, we can't lead, we can't collaborate unless we're we have a high sense of empathy, and that's, I want to understand your feelings and your emotions and your preferences, your thoughts and your opinions and your culture, for crying out loud. That's a huge thing. And I don't judge it. So if you're pro something and I'm anti something, I'm not going to judge you because of it. I'm going to ask questions because I want to know why you're pro whatever. And because I think, okay, hearing from you and asking you questions to learn something, and that really,
where can we find the common ground?
Exactly. Kind of thing. And it, like you said, it really helps me to really solidify my opinion in a way, but not so I can smash you over the head with it, but just so I can, okay, I get it. And I see that, I can respect it, but I don't have to agree with it. Right. But I sure as hell shouldn't slap you across the face because you're pro whatever you are. And
oh man, there's such a tendency to do that, right?
Oh, there is.
I mean, it seems like no one is immune to at least that feeling. I would assume that in your family you've got a nice mixture of left and right.
Well, it's mostly
considering you're in Berlin and your family's in East Texas.
That's right. Yeah, definitely, and that is one thing that we really, my family, last election.
Let's go back there. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Texas and tell me how you got to Berlin.
Well, that's easy. I fell in love with a German. Love brought me here. Why else would I leave Texas and come here?
Was it a pen pal?
No, I met him in Munich when I was a student.
Okay. Did you do like a year abroad?
I did.
Oh, okay,
I
great,
did.
Great.
Met him, took him home with me. I was like, Mom, Dad, I brought a souvenir.
You brought him home?
I did. Well, they knew. They knew.
I know, but still, like,
literally,
you brought him home.
I did.
Like the first time you came back from Germany, you brought him with you.
I did.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so then we got married. I finished going to uni in the States and in Texas. We had 2 kids. Then moved back to Berlin, and we both wanted to come to Berlin and not back to Munich where we had originally met. And been here for 18 years. And then we had 2 more kids. So 4 kids. Yeah.
Okay, so your first 2 kids were born in the States.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Okay, and the other 2 here. Great.
Here we are. I love it. Berlin is home, and but I'm still very proud. Maybe sounds like too strong of a word, but very happy to be American and Texan, and it's a big part of who I am. Yeah. And of course, normally I introduce myself. Hi, I'm Sarah from Texas. No, I don't have a gun. No, I didn't vote for Donald Trump. I have to throw these things out because immediately people are like, oh, there's Texas. This is who she is. Like, no, let me stop that right now. Oh
man, I mean. I don't want to get too political, but, when Trump was in office and I had to go to a theater, and everyone's sort of introducing themselves and then we have sort of a Kaffeeklatsch, right? Where everyone kind of sits around and talks. I mean, people would immediately come up to me and be like, oh, so you're American, yeah? So what happened with Trump?
Yeah.
I'm like,
oh, I know.
This is not, and I'm not spinning anything or pushing anything to one side or left. It's just sort of the overall opinion of the EU. And I mean that generally, because there are a lot of people on the right in the EU as well. But, most of the artists that I'm working with were sort of left. And I mean, and they said it in such a matter-of-fact way. I mean, especially Germans, they're very blunt.
They are.
It's like, so what happened with Trump? And I was like, well, I don't know. It wasn't just me voting for him,
Yeah, I know.
A lot of people voted for him.
The day after he was elected, so the first election, I went to work, and at the time, I was working at a company, a big German company, and I wore black. I knew it. I was like, this is like me in mourning. I woke up to the news that he had won, and I was was at a loss. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I was shocked. Anyways, okay, that's another story.
I was too.
But I came so close to putting a sign on my chest and my back that said, "I'd leave me alone. I didn't vote for him."
Yeah.
Same. Everyone was coming up to me, seeking me out, coming to my desk. Sarah, what happened? Sarah,
Yeah.
I mean, literally, like they were like, "Tell me what happened."
Yeah,
happened on the. I'm like,
what happened?
Yeah,
I know.
I don't know.
I know.
Yeah, I'm as shocked as you are. Leave me alone. But yeah, no, it was huge. And so back to your your original question, what we were talking about earlier, and back to empathy, and kind of, dealing with and living closely with working or even living with people that you disagree with. We had to make it a rule, my family. We're just not going to talk about it.
Your extended family.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and like over
and
Christmas.
That's really hard.
Yeah, and because as much as you think, okay, let's just sit and exchange, I don't know, still, there's heated emotions, especially family when you love each other so much. And, I used to change your diapers. Why are you?
Yeah.
Why did you not see it the way I do? And it gets intense. So.
Yeah, it can get very quippy too, like, oh, you would say that.
Yeah, exactly.
You
and
would
then,
say that, Trumper. Oh,
yeah.
You voted for Obama.
Yeah.
Whatever,
Right. Or no. Yeah. No.
Or Hillary or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
I try to look at the big picture when it comes to politics in general. But I think you can make a lot of judgments about people and about presidents and about politicians, but. And, Lord knows they dissect people and issues and things that they did or things that they did wrong on mass media, and even like the podcast media, the independent media, they do that too. But if you look at the big picture, so let's look at Obama. Obama did some good things. He did some bad things. But what's the biggest thing he did? What's going to be in the history books? First of all, that he was the first black president. Yeah. That's going to be in the history books. Second of all, what was his biggest piece of legislation? Obamacare.
Yep.
Okay. Trump also is going to be in the history books. Never held public office.
Right.
Billionaire, major, important guy in real estate and things like that, And he had his own TV show, things like that. I mean, he's going to be in the history books. Yeah. What was his biggest piece of legislation? The tax cut.
Yeah.
What was it, $2 trillion? $1.5 trillion? Something like that? You have to Google me on that.
Yeah.
Or you can brave.com it. You know about brave.com?
No. Is it like a fact checker?
They're not my sponsor, but I will tell you that Google is getting, and I'm only repeating stuff that I've already heard. This is not my opinion, but apparently you should really read the terms and conditions from Google because they are getting more and more invasive, and more and more they're tracking us and tracking what we, and a lot of people say, well, I don't care. I don't have anything to hide. Well,
bullshit. We all have stuff to hide.
Well, we all have stuff to hide, but also where does it end?
Well, I mean,
you give people power and they take it and they don't give it back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, stuff to hide, like my bank account. I don't want you to know that.
That's
my
right.
passwords. That's what I want to hide.
That's right.
And I think people too I'm an open book. I'm like, no, you're not.
No.
Then to print your, post your bank account online with your password.
How about your browser history?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for whatever reason. So no, I'm with you. And I've read stuff like that and I hear it. But I guess the problem is, Eric, we all feel kind of immune. We're like, it's okay. It's no big deal.
Right.
Because we've never been hacked or we've never been, nothing's ever happened. So it's kind of like it's not really, it doesn't hurt us. We don't, it does not, no pain point at the moment.
Right.
And I confess, and I'm just lazy. I'm like, Google's so easy. I just Google it.
Yeah. Listen, it was only about 6 months ago I got an email from Google said we had a major security breach. You have 45 passwords that have been lost in this security breach. Not lost. What was the word unsecured or something like that?
I get emails like that. I never read them.
Yeah, but I mean, what am I going to do? I mean, it would take me 5 days to go in,
God,
and
know.
redo all the passwords and find the passwords and,
Oh, I know.
It's like crazy. So anyway, brave.com.
All right. I'll remember
They don't
that.
track you.
Okay.
You don't get ads. There's nothing like that.
Okay.
And you can, like I had like a ton of bookmarks on my Google Chrome, and it's like a one click with Brave.com. It says import your Google bookmarks.
Seriously, and Brave.com it's a browser.
It's a browser.
All right.
Yep.
And
so it's like Safari or Explorer
or
Firefox
okay.
or Google Chrome. It's the same thing.
Okay.
Brave.com. It doesn't cost anything.
I'll check it
Now
out.
you'll say like, okay, how do they make their money then? I'll tell you. They have a system of, it's like a rewards program. So first thing you can do is you can opt out of it. You can say, I'm on Brave.com. I came here because there was no ads. They don't they don't target you with target ads, anything like that. They're not. They don't save your browser history. They don't collect it. They don't send it to anyone. Nothing like that. What they do is you can opt into the rewards program. So you get rewards points. I think they call them BATs. BAT, but I'm not sure that might be an acronym for something. But it's essentially like a Brave.com Bitcoin. Okay.
All right. Okay.
So you can use these BATs to buy things online. You can collect them. You can donate them to websites and charities, or you can cash out.
Cool.
Now you don't get a lot of BATs, but what you earn BATs by watching commercials. So when you opt in to the rewards program, I'm starting to sound like a commercial now, but I'm really not. I'm just trying to be really clear and explain it to you.
Yeah.
But it's like my radio voice. It's like, are they kicking in here? So you get these bats by watching. So they give you notifications when you opt in, and then when you opt in, you can even like opt in at different levels. It's like, do you want one notification an hour? Do you want 5 notifications an hour? And they kind of like do it in between. So you just watch the ad, and it's like normal Werbung that you would see on normal advertisement that you would see on YouTube and stuff like that.
Which I always skip over.
Oh my gosh. The ones on YouTube are so annoying. Sorry, YouTube. I'm going to post on your website anyway, but I don't know if I'll ever be monetized enough to have ads like that on my stuff. So you got to have like 1,000 subscribers to get that.
Okay.
So you can always subscribe. 1,000 subscribers, I'll get like, I don't know,
for sure.
1 penny per download or something like that. So anyway, so you just watch these and you collect the bats, and then you can like buy digital. It's like digital currency.
I think we do need to become smarter in how, and I should, at some of the really conscious and, kind of intentional, or just that we're aware of what's going on. Because I think that we're not aware of what's going on, how that we're being followed and tracked. And I remember years ago I was looking for a bike for my son, and then immediately on my Facebook I started getting these, bicycle ads, but I was like, oh my God, yes. I was like, look, I don't have to, look, they're coming to me. I was like, I totally fell for it. My husband was like, Sarah, God,
Do you have an iPhone or do you have an Android?
I have an iPhone.
You have an iPhone,
yeah. Anyways, no, but you're right. I mean, it's something to think about. I'll definitely, Brave.com. I'll check it out.
Check it out.
I will. I'll let you know
How
it goes.
Check it out. Also, I think it's like the most recent Joe Rogan podcast. He had this guy on who was...
The most recent was with Jordan Peterson. He just did.
You're right. It's the one before that. Yeah, and that's something else I want to talk to you about.
But I didn't watch that one. I haven't watched it, but I do. I am a big fan, and I know you are too. Of Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Hold on. There's Breaking Points. There's Joe Rogan, and this guy's name is Dr. Robert Epstein.
All right.
And he's leading this sort of task force independent task force to kind of just keep Google honest. Because
cool. Why not?
I mean, he said some unbelievable things in this podcast. Like, apparently he said that Facebook had the option of sending out was like just a voting, like remember to vote notification to all Democrats, and they know who's Democrat and Republican on Facebook based on your Facebook.
Yeah.
Just not to vote one way or the other, just to vote.
Just to vote, right.
And he said that would have counted for something like 450,000 votes. And Trump won by, 37,000 votes in over 3 states or something like that? That's how he won. And you got to think that Zuckerberg is probably kicking himself for that. I don't know. Or maybe he wanted to upset the apple cart. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
So anyway, let's get back. I love these tangents when we go off like that, but if you, whatever, just yawn or something, and I'll know that it's sort of getting boring. Okay. So yeah, I want to get back to your journey towards coaching and consulting.
Yep.
So you got to Berlin.
Yep.
You're dragging 2 kids behind you. You're dragging 4 kids behind you.
Now, yeah.
Yeah. And then you were thinking, what inspired you, or who inspired you to maybe get into coaching and consulting?
Well, excuse me. Well, I started when I first got to Berlin. My kids were small, my first 2, and so I was at home with them, and then I started working at a communication consulting company. And this company would go into big organizations, especially international, and help them with communication. So do training and do on-the-job coaching, how to communicate better, and even cultural training, how to prepare for an international delegation. And so really kind of the focus was international teams and communication. So I was there as kind of as a freelancer, just doing projects for them. And it was going really well, and then I got employed at the company. And then I had to stop again because I had 2 more kids, so I was out for a while.
Okay.
And then I went back after the younger 2 started kindergarten and school. And then it just really started going well. I started getting more projects, and in the company, I was basically deployed to a big company. And so I was this external consultant in the company, and so I was employed by this communication consulting firm.
And just a little more specifically, what did you do?
I would do training. I would offer training to people. So let's say they would order so many days of training from me, and so I would go in and think about what type of training do they need, whether it's negotiations or just basically, basics of communication, nonviolent communication, feedback, giving feedback, basic stuff. But of course, I'm doing this to mostly Germans, and they're having to do it in English. And so I was there naturally because I'm a native speaker. It was really a benefit that I was there because I was a native speaker. And so it was like, win-win for them. I was there to help them. Also, I would moderate some of their meetings. I would observe meetings, observe how are they communicating, and, are they connecting as a group, analyze their communication, kind of then say, this is what you need to improve. And some of it was also, you need to go to English class, you need to learn the basics because you're making a lot of mistakes that are leading to misunderstandings and stuff like that. So it was really practical, but really the focus was communication. Yeah.
What was, besides language, what was another issue that a lot of companies seem to be struggling with as far as communication goes?
Well, I think really cultural issues, and just really being sensitive to different cultures and how not to, especially when you're a large German company and you're known for being very good at this certain product or this certain service that you give. You're known around the world, and so we tend to, when I'm on a delegation in China or in the USA, I tend to kind of go in as a German and thinking, well, we're a German company, this is the way we do it. step aside, instead of saying, whoa, this is maybe, sure, we've got the German stamp, but we're actually in America, or we're actually in China, or we're actually in Sweden. Yeah. And so we've got our own flair. So just being, sensitive about those cultural differences and not being like a snowplow, just plowing over everyone, demanding they do it the way we do it. And so it was great, fascinating. I even was able to train families. Yeah, so like a family, like a dad or mom would get a delegation abroad, and they would move their whole family for 2 or 3 years. And so I even did training with children, preparing them for, living abroad for 2 or 3 years. What do I need to do? And because it's a huge thing, to, as a family leave. I mean, you know what it's like to, we love it here now. We're career expats, so to say. So it's easy. But at the initial, when you first move, you leave your home country, it can be painful. It can be awkward. It can be what's going on here? What's wrong with the Germans? No, nothing's wrong with them. And so it's me. How do I adapt? How do I assimilate? And also stay American, keep my own culture alive while being in another culture. Yeah. Anyway, so that was really the focus of it. And I loved it. And I got to know a lot of people. But in this company, I got to know more people, even kind of in the HR. And so I got introduced to different topics. So focus, leadership. And so I was invited to join teams, like how to also do training for leaders in management. And so that was going really well. And so then I really decided, okay, I'm bringing a lot of work in for this company where I'm employed. I don't need this company anymore.
Okay.
And, but I mean, it was a great company. I have a wonderful experience with them, wonderful past, but it was just time for me to step out on my own.
Right.
And so I quit. I started, and that was just in 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, so just a couple of years.
Okay.
And I went out on my own, became self-employed, started my own company, which is, I'm not incorporated or anything. I'm just a, one-man show, so to say.
Right.
And, excuse me.
Plug the name of your company.
My company, Sarah Reichert Consulting, coaching and consulting. I don't even know the name of my company.
Right.
You'll find it in the source notes.
You've got it. Yes. All this will be in the show notes for sure. You've got a Facebook page?
I do. And Instagram. I'm more active on Instagram. And mostly... Yeah, I'm mostly active on Instagram and Facebook, but I actually think they're connected. And then LinkedIn also as well. And, but yeah, so I absolutely love it. And so now my focus topics are leadership development. And in the last few years, I've also started working with talent. So talent programs and also team development, team coaching, which I absolutely love. And was
your major in communications?
It was actually a BA, and I went to UT.
I got a BA too.
Yeah, and then, but actually, I just started this month. Master's in organizational psychology.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
Great.
I'm super excited about that because
online, of course.
Yes, of course. But it's actually here in Berlin. It's a German university.
Good.
And but I opted for the online because I'm like, you know what? With everything the way it is, who knows? I might be online anyway. So
right.
Anyways, and then I did also a 2-year post-grad cert that I just finished in systemic coaching and supervision. I just finished that. And so that's so awesome. I absolutely love coaching. And then I also did a Gallup Strengths Coaching Acceleration Program. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Strengths Coaching, Gallup Strengths Finder. Highly recommend it. Recommend it. And so really the idea is, and actually that's what a lot of my posts are about, especially Instagram, and mostly about just knowing your strengths and really how much value that brings to you, and not knowing knowing who you are. It's kind of like your talent DNA. It's like the gifts that you've always had. And it's like me, one of my top strengths is positivity. Yeah. I've always, even from a kid, I always remember just being positive, always smiling in pictures and always laughing and always being happy. And again, it's a gift, and I don't have to force myself and to be happy. I just have this natural gift to see that things are great. Life is great. Life is fun. And anyway, so I think it's really fascinating. So helping teams know their strengths and work in their strengths, and when they do, they're more effective. They're more profitable. And of course they're happier. And it's not just about not failing and, kind of, keep us from failing as a team, that's not enough. No, as a team, we want to succeed. We want to excel. Yeah. And when we work in our strengths and know our strengths and of each other in our team, we can do that. We can really succeed.
It's very interesting in this time. You were talking about this sort of be happy mentality. It was like, I can remember people saying that to me, like, oh, come on, be happy. When we were younger, that seemed socially acceptable. And today it doesn't. It's something like, I don't know, we went through the 80s with the hair bands, and then we got to Nirvana and we realized that everyone was depressed kind of thing, and we went through the 90s and then the 2000s, and now the kids are connected and talking about their feelings and realizing that they're depressed, and now it's kind of cool to be depressed and to be on antidepressant medication and stuff like that. And it's just not cool to say be happy.
Yeah.
And in some ways, it's actually not. It's more than not cool. It's like not acceptable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but did it ever work? I mean, yeah, I do. I remember this. There's a song, right? Don't worry, be happy.
Be happy, right?
Right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I totally didn't think of that reference, but yeah, absolutely.
But has it ever worked? I mean, because it's like if you're sad or you're down and or you're worrying and someone says, "Hey, Eric, just don't worry." It's like, oh. Okay, I never thought about that. Let me just not worry. Like, that's bullshit. It doesn't work. I don't think it ever worked. But you're right. There was this stigma of being depressed or being down and being gloomy. And like you couldn't talk about mental health issues. Yeah. And for whatever reason. And now I think it's, I don't think we should wallow in our forever in our in our issues. And I'm definitely a fan of we need to get help, and whether that's coaching or therapy and or meds. Some people really do need the meds, and find a way to really deal with it, integrate it in a way, accept it, and just live our life. And I think, life is so short, and it's too short to, to spend just wallowing in that. But I think that dealing with it, talking about our emotions and our pain, in a way sets us free, because they don't captivate us anymore. They're not this kind of unwanted guest, that is stuck, and like, oh shit, I can't get rid of him. He won't go away. But it's like, okay, I see you, anxiety, fear, frustration. I know you're there. It's okay. Let me deal with you. I'm not going to ignore you, because that's... we know so much more about mental health and moods and what makes us happy and things like that. I mean, if you want to break it down to its most basic element, it's chemical. It's the drugs that are being released by our brain, the serotonin and the dopamine, which essentially... sort of, if you want to use the word makes us happy or not. I have listened to and read some really, really interesting studies about that recently. There are things you can do that release more serotonin or dopamine. There are foods you can eat. There are foods you can avoid. Yep.
And there are, we talked about the thing like be happy. I mean, I think I heard about a study one time where someone was saying that just if you do the physical act of smiling, it will actually release a tiny bit of, I can't remember if it was serotonin or dopamine, into your bloodstream. So it actually does make you a little happier.
Yeah. Yeah, or even giving someone a hug, and how important that is, and again, that just kind of shows how much we need each other. Connection is such a important part of our human existence, and or doing sports, going outside in nature.
Absolutely, that runner's high they talk about. The runner's high. It's like when you start doing the sport, it's like, oh God, my knees hurt, my ankles hurt, and things like that. And before you go for 10, 15 minutes sometimes to get into your sort of, it releases the serotonin or something into your bloodstream. And then you're like, okay, I can run for a really long time now, or I can play this sport for a really long time now. I'm pumped.
Yeah.
And I mean, you literally are pumped. You literally are pumped with drugs.
Yep.
You know? And it's really amazing. And the medicating the kids these days, for like our sort of generation or Generation X, I think it had a very negative stigma. When we were sort of late teenagers or early 20s kind of thing, it was like, I think it was like this Ritalin had come out.
Yeah.
And it was just, there was this big argument. It was like, well, you take these, hyperactive kids, a word that was popular back then. They don't use it today. We got some
just
active flies happening in the studio. I don't know. I got some plants in here. I don't know if we're we're cultivating over there. Okay. So they take these quote unquote hyperactive kids and give them Ritalin, and suddenly they're just zombies.
Yeah.
Zombies sitting in the classroom, and the teachers love it because they don't cause trouble anymore.
Yeah.
But what did that, we started to realize what the effect of that was on these kids, Today, it's so much different. I have seen incredible transformations in kids and their personalities, especially when it comes to their social behavior. I don't like that word, social behavior. Their social activity, their social life.
Yeah.
Where it was almost non-existent. It was hard to get them to look you in the eye, to shake your hand, that kind of thing, to almost a complete 180 degrees. They become charming. They have a sense of humor. They're anxious not anxious, but they're eager to work on projects, whether it be with school or they make up projects on their own. I mean, the creativity level comes out and stuff like that, and I find that amazing. And I think I'm over the fence, but for a while I was on the fence as to like, do we really need to medicate the kids like this, or do we just encourage them to go out and play like our parents did?
And so what are you saying, that the medicine does help, or what?
I'm just asking if you've had any experience, or if you have any opinion on that.
Yeah. No, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of experience. I mean, what I've heard from my mom, who was a school teacher for many, many years, and other friends who were school teachers, that it does help in sense of calm your emotions. You're not bouncing off the walls in class because you're medicated, but you are kind of like this zombie. But that's
sort of like the Ritalin path.
Right.
But I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what the drugs are. If anybody wants to comment on that,
I have
to me,
no
or write
idea.
me an email about it. I would really, and anybody wants to come on the show and talk about that, I would love it. Like, I would love to do a deep dive about what are the drugs out there and what exactly do they do to kids, and how do we know if our kids need it? How do we know if our kids don't, or how do we know? It just seems like personally, like, there's no parenting handbook.
No.
I mean, people have written books, but sometimes they don't know crap.
Yeah, right. And that it's just like a baptism of fire. I mean,
exactly.
You just throw it into it, and sometimes you can read too much. I mean, sometimes I remember diagnosing my kids with 1,000 things. I'm like, I'm sure, he has that, she has that, I'm sure. And my husband's like, Sarah, just stop reading, stop researching. I'm really the queen. I diagnose myself with everything. Seriously.
Do you go on like WebMD?
No, I have to stop myself. I would, Eric. I would. I seriously.
I've gone there a couple times, and then my doctor's been like, don't go there.
You can't.
They'll tell you have every disease in the book.
It's like, you got a headache. Shit, I've got a brain tumor. I've got 2 weeks to live. I'm like, no, you don't. You just didn't drink enough water today, Sarah. Come on.
That's awesome.
But no, back to, kids and depression, or, behavioral issues, whatever. No, unfortunately, I don't know a lot. But I do remember remember what you're saying. Yeah. When we were kids, it was like, yeah, just go outside and play. That was really what you had to. And that is kind of interesting about our generation, that we grew up with no technology. I mean, we grew up with watching Saturday morning cartoons.
Oh, man,
that was
that.
it, you know.
What was your favorite cartoon? Sorry,
the
tangent.
Chipmunks.
Alvin and the Chipmunks?
Yes.
They were awesome.
And the Smurfs. Those were really my
the
favorite.
Smurfs.
Yeah.
Yep. For me, Scooby-Doo.
Oh, yeah. Great.
I mean, those kids were so funny.
They were.
The bell-bottoms and the van and everything. It was great. Anyway, go ahead.
But yes, and so that we grew up really, you would go outside and play, and you come home when it's dark. You know, that's kind of the thing. My mom, of course, we lived, in the country, and so my mom had this amazing whistle. She'd just stick her head outside and whistle. Whoa. And we knew when we heard Mom's whistle, it was time to come home. But here, like now, my kids, they all have iPhones. I track them. I can see where they are.
Yep.
They know they have to text it, and so it's like I always, and so my husband and I sometimes
I hope they know that. Well, if they don't, they know now.
Oh, no, they know. I'm like, I pay for your phone bills. I'm like, I'm going to track them and check your WhatsApps, by the way. Oh, I do.
Good.
But yeah, my husband and I were talking about that the other day. He was like, Sarah, just don't track him, just let him go. And he was like, our generation, parents, we are sometimes too careful. We grew up, our parents were like, you're home when you're home, but again, sure, things have changed and there's more violence and whatever. But still, yeah, it's a fine line, and we're constantly learning as we go.
Do you think there is more violence, though?
Well,
I think there's more violence on media.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, Eric, I am so happy that my kids are growing up in Berlin not in the States because of gun violence and even just things like, I don't know, Berlin is, for being such a big metropolitan city, it's pretty safe.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the murder rate is, but it's super low. I know that. I mean, for being the kind of city that it is. I mean, if we were in the States, it would be crazy. Yeah. And anyways, so yeah, what was your question? I forgot. Sorry.
That's okay. No. I mean, we get on these tangents, and that's totally fine. I think it was basically, I just wanted to know your thoughts and opinions, and if you had any experience with medicating the kids.
That's right. Yeah, no experience, but I guess I'm kind of there, just kind of open a bit.
Yeah, and you got thrown into the parenting thing, and there's no manual for that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I do remember with my son when he was little, because he started talking really late, because we found out later, because he was basically deaf. We didn't realize that he had a huge hearing problem.
Wow.
And the doctors were like, I think he was like 3, and they said, he basically hears as if his head is submerged in water. That's all he hears.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so then that's why, so his speech delay, and then operated him, and then it really was just a matter of months he started talking. But also because of being raised bilingually, they said really focus on one language. And so
I don't agree with that, but okay.
Too late. Because now, so I did, being a mom, I was like, okay, we're just going to speak English to him. And so, anyways, he's totally fine now, but which means he prefers English over German. But that's another story. But he does speak German. But I remember at that age, the doctors were like, "Oh, get him tested for this and this and that." I mean, they gave us a list of tests, like behavioral tests. And my husband and I saw it, and we were like, this huge cloud. We were like, "Oh God, what's wrong with our son?" And we thought about it, and we were like, you know what? No, we didn't get him tested for anything. And we really had kind of this calm and peace about it, just because we thought, you know what, I think he's fine. We think it's just the ears. And sure enough, in a matter of really months, because he would act out and he would scream, and we realized just because he couldn't communicate, that was really it. And so by the time he was 4, there was this huge change in his behavior, and he was calm, and he would listen. He was very obedient and super, super sweet. And so we never got him tested for all these behavioral issues that the doctors were like,
good for you.
Yeah, and so that's, but again, every case is different. Parents, you have to know, what to do with your kids. But you're right, there is no handbook.
There's no handbook.
You just got to do what's best for your kids.
If you don't mind me asking, what was ultimately wrong? Why wasn't he hearing so well?
Oh, I don't even remember. There was just blockage, and cause that's the crazy thing. He never had earaches. Never had earaches.
Okay.
My other kids, the girls, they had ear infections, and so it was clear they had ear. But we were always at the ear, nose, and throat doctor.
Right.
But it was just blockage. I don't even remember what it was, but he just had poor ears, really bad. But no, now he's fine.
I had. I would get lots of infections when I was younger, and I don't know much about this procedure, but they put tubes in my ears that were supposed to drain the water
and they
when
fall
you go
out
swimming.
eventually.
Eventually they fall out or disintegrate or something like that, or I don't know. And I don't know if that's controversial or not.
No, they did that. My two of my girls had that.
Okay.
I had it as well. No, that's pretty normal.
Did you have it in the States? Or
I had it in the States.
In the States, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've got my left ear is very, very sensitive. So you can reach a certain decibel, and I actually get like a sharp pain in my ear that won't be in my right ear. It's only in my left ear.
Dang.
And I've had some incidences where it almost like sort of immobilized me.
Yeah, because you're a singer. I mean, you need your ears.
Yeah, exactly. But it would be like sometimes in Berlin these ambulances they put on their siren when they're right next to you and you don't see them coming or something like that. It was like that would put my ear like in a lockdown. It was like this sharp pain, and then like I just couldn't move for about a second or two. If a second or two of not being able to move feels like an eternity.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
But or I would be. It would almost like infuriate me. It would make me so angry. Like if somebody shouted in my ear, it would like turn my mood immediately. I would go on the defensive and want to like kick somebody's ass.
Goodness,
it's weird. It was really
weird. And this
weird.
regularly happens?
It still happens. Well, I mean, of course, I can control it as an adult, but but it goes off every once in a while. It's usually when I'm surprised by something. It's always my left ear. If somebody comes up and screams in my right ear, I'll be like, come on,
right?
But my left ear, it's like.
That's nuts.
You better be ready to throw down with me. It's like it's crazy. Yeah, my left ear is just extremely sensitive. Don't know. I've always wondered if that had some kind of effect on my singing, because, as an opera singer, we project our voices, right? So we're really not supposed to be listening to the voice that's inside our head. I mean, as an idea, you can kind of like plug your ears shut. You can't do this now, you have to do it later, but plug your ears shut and try to sing something. And I mean, what you hear inside your head sounds totally bizarre.
Yeah.
But for me, one side sounds different than the other side. It's not like balanced.
Have you been to the doctor about this?
Yeah, I mean, I've had regular
an ear test that like sound or
yeah, I've had my ears checked there.
Because I had that once when I had an ear infection. It was so bad I had hearing damage.
Okay.
And in one ear I heard everything normal, and the other ear I heard everything like this. Seriously, it was freaky.
What was like? Desensitized or oversensitized?
It was like a whole nother octave.
Oh.
It was like here one I was hearing like this. The other one was I was hearing like this.
Oh.
I mean, it was freaky, but thank God it was just a few weeks, and the doctor was like
only temporary.
Yeah, I think the doctor was like, it could be forever. I was like, what? Yeah, she was like, you have such bad damage. My ear infection was so bad, and this was just like 4 or 5 years ago. And thank God, thank you, God, it's gone. It came back, and she told me, she was like, you can be lucky and happy that it came back. But yeah, it's freaky.
Yeah, ears are so strange and complicated.
They are.
Yeah.
We're a complex mess, I swear. Humans.
Oh yeah,
we're beautiful but complex in everything.
Crazy. So I want to give you a chance to elaborate more on your business if you'd like.
Sure.
For example, what Let me see. I wrote down some topics here. No. Because I'm totally ignorant about this. Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you. One thing I'm fascinated about, because I have to deal with my kids about this as well, is motivation.
Yep.
I know for me, I wasn't motivated to, for example, work hard in school until I found out that if I wanted to play hockey in college, I had to get a certain grade point average. And that was my motivation. And I think that really didn't happen until like 10th grade.
Yep. You're right. And I think that's, excuse me. Sorry.
That's okay.
I think it's hard to... most people don't really understand how motivation works. Yeah, we think motivation is just like, come on, you can do it. I believe in you. Kind of like this cheerleader.
Yeah.
You know, that's
also frowned upon these days.
Right. Well, that's not what it is. You know, sure, affirmation is good and encouragement is good.
Sure.
But sometimes, I remember years ago, one of my daughters, she was in karate, and she made it up all the way yellow, orange, I don't even know, you know, whatever, all the colors she made up to green belt. And I was so encouraging. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm so proud of you, and you're so great. And she was good. She would kick ass. I mean, she was really good for her. And then finally one day, years after years, she's like, oh, I want to quit. I was like, really, baby? Why? You're so amazing, you know? And she was like, yeah, I just did it because you were so encouraging, and you were pushing me, and I was this big cheerleader for her. And then I realized, crap, how sad. I've motivated her. Basically, I pushed her. I didn't motivate her, you know, like I thought I was doing. I pushed her to do something she didn't care about. She wasn't passionate about. She just did it because I was like this loud, relentless cheerleader on the sidelines, like not shutting up. So I think we don't really understand how motivation works, and that's it. It's all about finding my why. What am I passionate about? And what really excites me. And a lot of times it's just like that hockey. It was, so in your case, it was the nature of the game.
Right.
Yeah, you loved it. You loved maybe, I don't know, flying over the ice. You loved the teamwork. You loved the challenge of getting the puck in the goal.
Yeah,
whatever, you know, you loved the feeling of the puck, you know, and that's, so the nature of the work really, for some reason, it just caught you. Your eyes lit up. And so that was then what pushed you to excel, pushed you to study, because there was a purpose. And so I think that's important for us as parents, and I try to find what are my kids passionate about, what are they naturally good at, you know, and also kind of back to those strengths. What are their strengths? What are they? You know, do they like to analyze? Do they like to communicate? Do they like?
So do you try to get them to use their strengths, like to do like homework, for example, that maybe they're not talented in, you know, whether it be whatever subject, but they have to do it because of school and you have to get your work done. So you got to figure out how to motivate yourself. And it seems like such an important thing these days because their kids have so many distractions. I mean, even more than we had. Oh,
definitely. They do. I mean, that's one thing that you really have to find what they're naturally good at. Like my son, he loves to now, funny, he didn't talk a lot as a child because he couldn't. Now he loves to talk. He loves to argue, but in the sense of discussing, not like fighting, but like, and he loves history. And so, and he likes reading. And so that's kind of, we're seeing, hey, you know, really pushing in that. And he's recently joined Model United Nations, MUN, which is a great program for young people. And to really learn about debating and politics and diplomacy and stuff. And so it's really, they learn great skills there.
And very social.
Yeah, very,
so
very
it's nice
social.
that he's sort of following in your footsteps, you know, with like at least an activity for now that is based on being social with people.
You're offline. You have to actually communicate and interact, and you know, and you have to find partners, and you have to, you know, and so that's really good. And so we notice he's good in that, and other things I think he's naturally good at, like math he can do, but he's not passionate about it, you know, and so, and I think there the motivator is you got to do good. If not, you're going to have to repeat this grade,
Ooh,
So that's
yeah.
kind of the
that.
the motivator of like, shit, I want to get out of here as soon as possible,
Right.
But I think it's important to find, okay, what your kids are naturally good at or what excites them.
Yeah.
What
do you find that that's a big part of your job?
Oh, yeah.
Motivating people?
Yeah,
Like, do you get people that are like, oh, I got to do this stupid delegation. We got to go and do this thing. It's like, how can I motivate myself?
Well, normally I work with leaders who they want to learn how to motivate their team better. They want to motivate their employees better. And a lot of times it is like this kind of, I'm not a good motivator because I'm not a cheerleader. I'm like, whoa, that's not what motivation is about. Motivation is about knowing your team, having connection with them, and knowing, okay, this is what Eric likes. That's what excites him.
Right.
Yeah, this is what she likes. That's what gets, that's what she's naturally good at. So
Right.
it's about me giving her tasks that it's like I'm speaking the language she speaks or
Right.
you speak, and that's
Right.
what motivates you. And so I've got
Okay.
to find, and so what motivates you,
Yeah,
and leverage that.
Yeah. I mean, and with me, when it was always, well, if I can't motivate myself, like with ice hockey, it was always like a reward system. It's like, okay, if I get this done, I can sit on the couch for a little bit, have a scotch.
That's the classic.
something,
The classic extrinsic motivator. So a reward. Extrinsic. So it's
Great.
something from outside. And so it's a reward or a punishment. So the punishment would be for our kids if they don't pass their grades. If they don't pass the grade, they're gonna have to repeat. That
Right.
would be a punishment. Yeah. Or I can't go out on the weekend.
Right.
If I don't,
Grounded.
Yeah, you're grounded. And so the same thing. And so that always works. But that kind of motivation is more short term. Yeah. So really,
Yes.
if I really want to motivate you, my team,
Yes.
my peers, or my kids, I need to find their intrinsic motivator, and that's really
Intrinsic.
what comes from within. Why you do what you do, and that's
Right.
because I love learning. I love new tasks. I get easily demotivated, and I get easily bored if I'm doing the same thing over and over again. So what
Yeah.
does she need? New tasks. Yeah.
Yeah.
To switch things up and things like that. And so that's really finding the language they speak. And there's different models out there, motivation models like this intrinsic, extrinsic. There's so-called hygiene factors and motivators, and because that's a big thing. A lot of people think, well, crap, I can't give you a raise because either we don't have the budget or I'm not your boss. I'm not your disciplinary, boss. I can't hire you or fire you or give you a raise. So I
Right.
can't motivate you. Surely money will motivate you. Bullshit. Money's not a motivator. It's a hygiene factor. That means if you...
Interesting.
Yeah, it means if you don't earn enough money, you won't stay at the job. You'll slowly pack your bags and you'll go somewhere else. Yeah, so it's like it has to be a minimum. But let's say if I offer you so much more money and I think, oh, that'll get Eric moving. Yeah, he's kind of being lame and, kind of just doing the minimum. I
Right.
need to push him a little. He's not proactive. And so I think, oh, well, let me give him a raise. That won't motivate you. You might, okay, for a little while.
It might be like a blip.
Yeah, but it's not going to
come back down.
Right.
Yeah.
And so these hygiene factors, you need those to so you're not demotivated, but to really be motivated, it's about learning opportunities. It's about the nature of your work. It's about status, or being recognized and contributing to the value of my company or to the world. Knowing what I'm doing is not for nothing. There's a purpose behind it. Yeah. And those are things that really motivate and cause satisfaction. Yeah. So it's one thing not to be demotivated, but it's another thing to be motivated.
Right.
Yeah. And so
it seems like this is something that we should really be focusing on with kids.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and it just seems like it's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can remember talking to my kids about it, but this seems like it should be part of like the curriculum.
It should, yeah.
I don't know, maybe starting like 12, 13, 14, what is going to motivate you?
Yeah.
And don't say money.
Yeah.
Don't say, I don't know, some kind of other monetary thing. It's got to be like these interests that spark your curiosity, these interests that help you reach, I don't know, something that's maybe attainable or unattainable. Like you're never going to reach it, like, I mean, like when I got into opera, one thing I realized was that I will never have the perfect voice. No one has the perfect voice.
No.
Everybody makes mistakes. My teacher, famously talked to me about, because he was living in New York City and had season tickets to the Metropolitan in like the mid 70s. So this is when like Domingo and Pavarotti were in their heyday, and they were singing like, I don't know, 40 performances a year at the Metropolitan. You would go and see them, and Pavarotti would get up there in Rigoletto and sing La Donna Immobile, La Donna Immobile, and go for the high, it's a high B at the end, and crack. Almost every night he cracked. And this is the greatest tenor in the world.
Yep.
And still is considered one of the greatest tenors to ever live, and possibly the greatest.
Yeah.
So it was like and I still take voice lessons now, even though I've been a professional singer for over 21 years.
That's awesome.
And it's that reaching towards the unattainable.
Yeah.
And, I hear these other singers, and their voices are so beautiful, especially tenors, because I'm a tenor myself, and I just have so much respect when I hear a beautiful voice like that just blooms out into the opera house, and I think like, God. And of course they make it sound natural, but I know the hard work that goes into it.
Right. No, that's I mean, I think that's something that all humans have, this desire to grow and to develop and to keep improving, because I don't know. I mean, I think it's like this, we were born with it, this desire to keep moving, keep growing. In fact, that's another kind of motivation theory, and I can't say his name, some Hungarian guy. Okay. It's I can never say it, so I'm not even going to try. But it's called the flow model, and the idea is that when our skills aren't enough to meet the challenge, it's too hard for us. We're overwhelmed, and as a result, demotivated. We're like, panic, I can't do it. Crap, I don't know how to do this. And the opposite is the same. When my skills are too advanced for this task that I've been asked to do, so it's basically too easy, or I've done it for 20 years, the same thing over and over, I get bored and demotivated. So the idea is I need to be in the flow. That's where my skills meet the challenge, but not exactly. I still have to work on it. I still have to learn new things, because that's where I grow and learn new things. And that's where, when I'm in the flow, I'm motivated. And so, looking at human nature, we need that. We need to keep growing and developing. So that's why, you're a professional 21 years later, still taking voice lessons. Yeah. That's why I'm going back to school, and that's why, I mean,
my girlfriend's doing the same thing. She went back to school, and she's doing like an online, getting an online degree. Yep. What kind of clients do you have in terms of like, are they always like working with a big company, or do you get like some artists every once in a while, or do you?
No, let me think. Mostly big companies, or I have some individual clients.
But they're in the business world.
They're in business.
Kind of thing.
They're almost all in corporate, in international companies, finance, but no artists, but there's definitely a huge market for artists,
I think there is.
I would love to coach artists. I mean, and because I think, that's a beautiful.
There's an
profession.
amazing book I've read, and now it's like a 3-part series book called The War of Art. Have you heard of it?
Nope.
So, of course, it's a play on words like the art of war, right? So, but this book is actually called The War of Art, and I'll have to look. I don't remember the author at this moment, but it's the same guy who wrote the screenplay for Bagger Vance. Do you remember this movie with Will Smith?
No.
Will Smith and Matt Damon about the golfing?
Yes.
And so how that had like all these sort of like how to find your groove, how to how to find your focus was a lot of things, and how to learn to believe in yourself and your capabilities, you know, and he was a writer, and for the first, I can't remember exactly, but I think it was like 15 years of his career, a total failure. Nobody would, you know, he would adapt books to screenplays. He would write his own screenplays. He would write books. He would write, you know, articles, things like that. Nothing.
Yeah.
Living in a trailer, typing on like you know, an acoustic typewriter, not acoustic, non-electric typewriter.
Yeah, what are those called?
Not acoustic. That sounds.
That's a
it's
guitar.
a musical term. Yeah.
Analog.
Analog. Yeah. Not even below analog because you don't plug it in or anything. What is that called?
Just a
mechanical.
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, he was typing on one of those.
Yeah.
You know, for years and years and years. You know, and then he had success.
Yeah.
He had some kind of success, and that carried over to another one and another one and another one. And then he decided to write this series of books. So now it's like the war of art, and I can't remember the other two, but I read those two, and it's really, really interesting. He talks about this thing that we have in our lives that sort of holds us back, and he calls it resistance. So, you know, when you've got, you know, you have something to do. You know, you have a project. What is actually stopping you from sitting down and getting that done? And he talks about it's this resistance. Well, I'm going to get a sandwich first. I'm going to call my mom. I'm going to, you know, I got to do the laundry first. I got to clean this up. And then, you know, and then before you know it, 2 hours has gone by and you haven't started your project yet. You know? So we would call it sort of procrastinating, you know, and stuff like that. But he calls it resistance. And, yeah, it's just really interesting. I encourage you to sort of check that out. I mean,
I will.
I don't know. Do you do like audiobooks? I find them extremely great because I can go for like a jog and listen to an audiobook. And
no, I haven't. I'd rather listen to podcasts. But no, no, that's something I could. Because I do. I love listening while I'm working out or on a walk or driving.
Yeah. I mean, of course, there's Audible. I think I'm on Audible. But there's also, you can go to YouTube and you can get like clips of the book, of the audiobook. And, you know, of course, it has commercials.
So do podcasts,
Yeah, so do a lot of podcasts,
which I always skip over.
Oh, yeah. I try to if I can anyway.
Yeah, you can.
I can anyway, so. How you doing on time?
No, I'm good. I was just thinking I could use it.
Yeah, you want to try some scotch? All right, we're gonna pause.
Definitely.
If I can pause.
See, this is great. That's what I'm talking about. Podcasts where you can...
Exactly. I take mine with just a splash.
Awesome. Cool.
Okay, we're back with a little of the Balvenie.
Yep. Best podcast ever.
This
when you
is
get
the
cheers.
Here's to 2022.
That's right.
All right.
That's right.
That's a sipping whiskey. That's a sipping whiskey.
That is so good.
This is the Balvenie Double Wood, aged 12 years.
Oh gosh.
They call it the Double Wood because it's a single malt, and it's got, but they put it in two different casks: a whiskey oak cask and a sherry oak cask. And I think it's delicious.
It is.
I mean, if you're a Scotch drinker, this is like candy.
This is amazing. Because see, I love also bourbon. Yeah, which is a bit sweeter as well. So,
it's a bit sweeter.
And so this is really... Did you get this here in Berlin?
I got that at Edeka.
Seriously?
Yeah, it was on... I think it was on sale, too. It was a really good price. Because usually these bottles are about... 55 to 60.
Dadgum.
And this one was 42.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, I think I'll get that.
Okay. Good tip. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I wonder, but you know what I do sometimes, or my husband rather, we'll find some, and then that's why I took a picture right now of the bottle, because check online.
Yeah. Every once in a while.
Yeah, sometimes you can find them. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I like Four Roses. That's a great bourbon. Have you ever had that one?
Four Roses. I'm not a big bourbon drinker, but I love to try stuff.
Yeah, try it. I mean, it's pretty. It's a good. I mean, especially if you like to mix it or something. I mean,
okay.
Yeah.
What do you mix a bourbon with? Can you make like a mixed drink with a bourbon?
I'm sure you can.
Yeah.
I mean, I normally just drink it plain.
I'm trying to read my writing. What I wrote here. Oh yeah, we covered that. So, yeah. So what were we talking about? Oh, individual clients, art of war.
Yes, artists and
yeah.
Yep. No, but I grew up from have a family of artists, and my daughter is a musician. My second daughter, she's studying music here in Berlin.
Oh, great! And
actually, I have a colleague who we did our postgrads cert together. He's a musician, and he actually coaches other musicians, and because there's a huge need for it, and I think artists, we need them. Our society needs them, and we need to love them, cherish them, support them.
Definitely. I mean, who was it? I forget if it was like Churchill or somebody who was like, if we don't have the arts, like what are we fighting the wars for?
Yeah.
What are we having the governments for?
Yeah.
It's like this is, the arts are part of our an intricate part of our entertainment system.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Yeah, and I always like to talk about or find out what people think about opera in specifically because this is an art form now that's been around for over 400 years and it's still around.
It is.
And but yet every year it seems like my colleagues are like, oh well, in 5 years it's going to be wiped out if we don't do this. If more people aren't paying attention, in 10 years there's going to be no opera and things like that. And it always seems, they've been saying that for 100 years.
Right. Well, isn't it what belongs to it's classic. I mean, there's some things that are timeless, and then I think there's always going to be this need for the timeless classics because it it's this connection to what was always there, and a connection to the
stories are very political. They're very violent. They're very people think the stories are boring.
No,
the stories are fantastic.
Well, and you see, human nature and the all its ugliness and the evil and the good and the being torn and the conflict and
but it seems like what most people, especially Americans, know about opera is only stereotypical. Yeah. And that comes from the education side.
Yeah.
Because, here in Germany, there are, Germany's the size of the state of Montana, and there are 80 opera houses in Germany. Yeah. And in all of North America, I don't think there's 80 opera houses. That's
crazy. Oh, I know. Well, growing up in East Texas, no, opera never. Yeah. I mean, we saw, Annie. I'm thinking,
it's a musical.
The musical. I mean, some sort of anything that like art that I was introduced to.
Sure.
Ballet. I don't even remember. I think the Nutcracker, maybe. Some classics that would come. But it was more like a traveling theater.
Are you like in near Amarillo?
No, God,
Amarillo?
No.
East Texas.
Eric.
Oh no, that's the other side.
Yeah.
So you're closer to.
I'm between Dallas and Houston, a small town in between Dallas and Houston. But also, Germany would fit inside Texas twice.
Yeah,
that's just to give you some context. Texas is huge, and we weren't introduced to it. I mean, really, come from the countryside, and so it was not a big part of our culture. I mean, gosh, I was growing up in Texas. We had 1 year of Texas history in school, a whole year. All we talked about was Texas history, so we were kind of focused on ourselves, And again, the United States is so big, and it's like, we don't need anything else. I mean, just kind of the mentality that you kind of grow up with. I mean, I'm fortunate enough that my parents always encouraged us to travel. And so much so when I was 19, my parents bought me a one-way ticket to Munich. And they're like, go for it, Sarah. You want to do it? Go. Which was really unheard of.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it starts with this education, especially when it comes to opera. It's like, you know, in Germany, they're taking the kids in Kita.
Oh, I know.
And all of the opera houses, from the A houses down to the D and the E houses, they have these like Kinderopers, you know, these operas for kids, and it's freaking real. It's unreal.
I'm looking behind you, Carmen, Juliet, my oldest. Don't want to say names. Sorry.
It's okay.
Whatever.
Shout out to Juliet.
She was in the Kinderchor, so the kids' child's choir, and she sang in Carmen for years.
Yeah.
And she danced in Carmen. She had like the,
Amazing.
you know, when the kids dance.
At the Deutsche Oper.
At the Deutsche Oper in Berlin, for years. And that's how, I mean, we would take her twice a week. And she would be rubbing, you know, shoulders. I would wait with all the other moms in the canteen there, and they'd go back. And then she auditioned for Evita a few years ago. Evita came, and she got a role as the singer, as the child. And
wow, that's great. I never knew. Okay.
Yeah. And again, and that's also, I think, living in a city like Berlin, where you're just so close to, you know, where culture is so alive, and like you say, 80 opera houses in all of Germany. It's just so, it's everywhere. You can't escape it, and the opportunities are great. I mean, growing up in Podunk, East Texas, you know, you can join Future Farmers of America, which is great, you know, or but that's it, you know. I mean, you'd have to go to Austin or Dallas, you know, or, you know, if you live in Chicago or New York, you know, you're closer to more, you know, where maybe more opportunities are. But here, it's just everywhere.
My son went to Kita for 2 years in Berlin, and they took a field trip. I had to think about the English word for a second, because we say Ausflug so much now. A field trip to the theater once a month. Once a month. Yeah. Now, you know, maybe it was puppets.
Yeah.
I think he told me one time he went to see like the Barber of Seville.
Yeah.
You know, the Barber of Seville. But it was with puppets, Daddy.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And I was like, oh, were the puppets singing? I was like, of course the puppets were singing, Daddy. You know, and or some other kind of musical experience, or just theatrical. You know, maybe it was a ballet, but you know, it was all with like, it was the Komische Oper.
Yep.
It was the Deutsche Oper Berlin. It was the Staatsoper Berlin. You know, putting on this stuff for the next generation.
Yeah.
And now some opera companies in the U.S. have programs like this, but in the U.S., if like for example, Austin has a very nice opera company there, Lyric Opera of Austin Lyric. I think it's Austin Lyric Opera. Shout out to Austin Lyric Opera. Did my first butterfly there. If they wanted to, I don't know if they do or not, but if they wanted to do like they call it outreach. If they wanted to expose opera to kids, something like that, they have to apply for a government grant. And the government, I guess it's the National Endowment for the Arts, gives them a grant. So whatever, they get 15 grand, you got to hire some singers, get a truck, get some cardboard sets, you go out into the schools and you sing some kind of kids opera. For that. I've done that once or twice, and I mean, it's exhausting for the singers. Exhausting. And most of the time the kids are really not paying attention. But you know what? If you're performing for 50 kids, you get through to 5 of them.
Yeah.
And maybe one of them considers even a career in singing. Considers a career. But those are the kind of odds that, you know, 1 is better than 0. Yeah. So, you know, for that, back to motivation, that was my motivation. It's like, okay, I'm not doing this for the money. I'm not doing this for, obviously, the prestige.
Singing for a bunch of kids.
Singing. I think it wasn't even like a human character. It was like, I think that it was like a kid's opera, you know, written for kids. And it was called something like Sid the Serpent Who Wanted to Sing. Yeah. Awesome. And I was Sid.
Awesome. That's cool. Got to start somewhere.
Got to start somewhere, you know. I mean, this was like, it was like the first year of my professional career. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, you can, if you can reach even just a few kids, you know, but even the kids you don't reach, you change their ignorance about stereotypes of opera singers into something else. At least they have the knowledge to say, oh, that's not what opera singers are.
Yeah.
I saw an opera singer. He came to my school.
Yeah.
And he, you know, he wasn't like, sorry to stereotype opera singers, extremely overweight. He wasn't wearing like a horned helmet, you know, and you know what? His singing wasn't like, there was no blood coming from my ears. He didn't break any glass.
Right. I just thought of Bugs Bunny for some reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and Elmer Fudd. I'm sure there was a scene somewhere where he was, you know, an opera singer. You know?
Yeah, there's like 2 episodes.
Yeah.
It's like one is like the barb hair of Berlin or something like that, and one is like I don't know, Kill the Rabbit or something. I just remember Elmer Fudd going, "Kill the wabbit, kill the wabbit, kill the wabbit, kill the wabbit." You know, I don't know. So, yeah, the whole stereotyping. I mean, I think it's crazy.
It is.
Do you ever run into that with like the coaching thing? Do you say like you're a coach consultant and people are kind of like,
yeah, sometimes. Well, I mean,
is this like some kind of witchcraft? Are you a medium? What is this? You know?
Well, no. Sometimes it's kind of like, oh, you do like organizational, you know, kind of development or coaching or consulting, and rather it's like, especially some of my colleagues that are really a lot
right over the head,
right? Because I have a lot of colleagues that kind of work, you know, more social area, and they're, and so kind of like, oh, you consult and coach the snobs, you know, the corporate snobs. And I'm like, no, they're not corporate snobs. That, you know, I love these people, you know, they're great. They're, you know, sure, they've got these amazing leadership positions, and they come to me because they want to, you know, work on their leadership skills or develop, and, you know, and they want to be, you know, reflective. Otherwise they wouldn't come to me, you know.
Right.
And so they're not a bunch of corporate snobs. And so sometimes I get rather pushback from colleagues, not anyone else. Otherwise, I was like, yeah, cool, wow, that's great, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think today, sure, a lot of people, you have a lot of life coaches out there, and but also it's kind of like, the way again, I don't want to sound like a snob, but I mean,
so you don't consider yourself like a life coach?
God, no,
quotes, kind of
no,
thing.
no,
Okay.
Like,
no, it's really like
systemic coaching, like really legit.
Systemic coaching.
Yeah, that's like legit, because it's like really postgraduate work. Like, you can't, this is not just an online certification that you can do, pay 6 weeks to get.
This is really like definitively not life coaching.
No, not at all. Okay. And where I did it here in Berlin, it's like,
because I am completely ignorant about stuff like this. Like, you have to really inform, like that's why I really wanted to get you on the podcast to talk about stuff like this, because I know that if I'm confused about it, there are other people confused about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's always good to have clarification.
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
And where I got my certification is like at the largest European recognized coaching and therapy association. And so it's like really legit. It's recognized, and it's recognized in corporations and places where you can't just come in if you've done some life coach cert, you know, that's like, no, that's not legit. And so, and you have to have really undergraduate work that fits kind of, that helps you, prepare you for the certification. And so, I absolutely love it. I love coaching people, helping them reach their goals, accompanying them on their journey through the reflecting and processes and methods to help them get there. Again, what's nice is I don't have to be an expert if you're an opera singer, or if you're the CEO of a company, or if you're a school teacher, or if you're a student, or if you're a single mom who's thinking to go back to work and you're concerned about returning to the workforce. For me, you know, that doesn't matter. Where I like to find, you know, where my expertise is in the process, helping you reflect, think about your wishes, your motivation, aligning, you know, kind of thoughtfully aligning yourself with, you know, where am I going? What do I want out of life? You sit in the driver's seat. I sit in the passenger seat. I help you get to the destination that you've determined for yourself. Yeah. And that happens through talking, and questioning different methods, changing a perspective, talking about your strengths, personifying our emotions, and, even talking about, like you said, we talked about earlier, feeling depressed or anxious, talking about that, okay, and
do you feel like sometimes you're acting like a psychologist or a shoulder to cry on? Because,
sometimes.
I know from my own experience, like I would, when I was a grad student, I would teach high school kids singing lessons. And, these like 16-year-old kids, they would come in and they'd be a wreck. And I was like, okay, well, we can't sing unless we like fix whatever.
Clear the air, yeah.
Fix whatever is bothering you. Well, Bobby wrote a note to Sarah and Sarah didn't give it to, da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, okay. Well, let's get it out there, and have a little cry and have a drink of water, and then we'll start singing.
There you go.
And,
there you go.
So it was like, there was like with singing, it's so interesting because our instrument is our body.
Yeah.
So, of course, if our voice is connected to our body and our body is connected to our mind, then everything is connected. So, I know immediately in my own singing, if I go to sing, if something is sort of bothering me, because it just won't be as free, it won't be as good. And I could easily tell with some of these young students and things like that. And my teacher in university would say the same thing, like I would go in afterwards and I was like, oh, I saw Jill was just here and how's she doing? And he's like, well, she didn't sing a note. We just talked the whole time because she's having trouble with her boyfriend.
Yeah. No, I think there is there is a lot of power in just talking and in someone just listening. And I think as a coach, and that's the difference from being a consultant, a coach will listen and not give advice. I won't tell you what to do because the way I work is help you help yourself. The answers are somewhere in there. I just help pull them out. And so, but I do have some clients that's like, what's on the agenda for today? What's burning in your heart? What are we going to talk about today? And sometimes it's just, I don't know, Sarah, I don't have a real specific request today. I just need to talk. I need to, this is kind of what I'm thinking in this certain scenario. Can you listen and give me feedback? You got it. Yeah. And that's
really good, I think.
Yeah, people
because I
need
think
that.
you can. Yeah, I think you can kind of pigeonhole what you do. Like you can say to yourself, well, I have a method, I have a technique, and I am going to apply that to every client. And I think that works never.
Yeah, no, there's no paper cut, there's no patent answer, for every, no way, absolutely not.
I think you have to be just as flexible.
Oh, yeah.
As whether it be a teacher, a psychologist, a coach, as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Because people are just as different as...
Yeah. And even when I do consulting, and there is rather like, okay, I'm an expert on this field, this topic, because I have experience in myself, and I've also trained and know the expertise, know the theory, the methods behind it. And so I can give you, based on my expertise, I can give you tips. Like if I'm an IT consultant, I know what infrastructure you need to make your system work, what kind of internet and computer monitor and blah, blah, connection, everything. I can consult you because that's my area of expertise. And so, and you also could probably be a good consultant for any up-and-coming musician. So there you wouldn't maybe be a coach. You'd be rather like, here, let me give you some tips, some expertise, because I've done it. I've been there. I know I have some good tools to give you.
I can tell you what kind of worked for me,
Exactly. But again, they're tools that I can give you based on my knowledge and experience. And there I can give you. I can say, hey, I can advise you, but at the end of the day, it's a tool. It might work, it might not. Like you said, it worked for me. Maybe it won't work for you. It's so. But coaching, it's not this frontal. Let me consult you. Let me advise you. It's no. Let me listen. Let me pull out the answers that are already inside of you. Yeah, and because I do coach a lot of executives, I will sometimes I will be asked for advice, and it's kind of like, Sarah, what would you do? And they're like, okay, well, let me stop, put on my consulting hat, so to say, and this is what maybe you could try. But even then, disclaimer, might not work. You gotta, and sometimes they are grateful for that kind of frontal expertise, advice,
right.
Which, but no, I absolutely, I love it. I love working with people. I love my job. It's fun. I think work should be fun. If it's not, something's wrong. Really, you've got the wrong profession, or something's got to change. I
saw you said that in one of your videos, and I thought that was so great. I was like, she got it.
Yeah, it's seriously.
Good for you.
Because we spend so much time at work, and it's like, if it's not fun, get the hell out of there. Change something. It's not worth being stuck. Yeah.
And now the question we've all been dreading. The one that has affected everyone on the planet. COVID.
Am I vaccinated?
No.
Yes, and I'm boosted. What were you going to ask?
No. How has it affected you?
My business.
How has it affected your business?
Yeah.
How has it affected your life? I mean, I know personally, but tell us.
Okay, No, for sure. At the beginning, like I said, I started my business 2019, so I had 1 year. It was great, when I was getting new clients, I was traveling, I was in Dubai, I was in Sweden, I was all over Germany.
So you were doing face-to-face
consulting. 100%.
Amazing.
100% face-to-face.
100% face-to-face.
I don't want to lie. Okay, maybe I had one project here or there that was virtual, so online, but that was really the exception. I was traveling all the time.
Wow.
And then COVID hit, and I was like, shit. Whoa. I was like, this is...
I think the world said a collective fuck.
Yeah, we did. Everyone did. But at first it was like, literally, I was on my way to Milan at the beginning of March 2020, and I got a call and was like, no, Sarah, we're canceling. I'm like, okay. But then I was also like, because remember, Milan is kind of like where it all started,
Yes.
for Europe anyways, and then I was kind of like, okay, it's fine. I wasn't really jazzed about going to Milan right at that moment, but then got canceled, and things started getting canceled or postponed. No, first things were postponed. It was like, okay, that's fine. Postponing, until we realized, shit, this isn't going anywhere. No one has any idea what this is about. So really, overnight, Eric, I lost 98% of my business.
98?
Yeah, it was nuts. It was nuts. Luckily, I did have one project in March that was the exception online project that was already scheduled, and that took place and as usual. But then April, May, June, so I had 3 months, I had nothing. And then I was kind of like, panic. What the hell? What is this? And so finally, then two of my main clients, we managed to go online and really virtualize the products that I was really delivering, because I deliver some core products for these companies, and so it started up in July, and then it's taken off, Eric. I have more work now than ever because it's crazy, but because I was traveling so much, and so if I would travel to Munich or wherever, it was always usually a day or half a day of travel time, and then traveling back, and now that travel time is gone. And so I can work 5 days a week. And I've gotten more clients, and they've seen how well it works online, and so they've opened kind of the in-house portfolio to different levels of management, and so at first it was scary. I was like, you're kidding me, this is not. I was really panicking. After a year I just got it started, and but no, thank God. It's great.
So it turned out to be sort of a success for you.
Oh, yeah.
It did for a lot of people, certainly if you're in the stock market.
Yeah.
It took a nosedive.
Yeah.
I was like, making jokes on Facebook and Instagram like, hey, my investments just got COVID. So, that makes perfect sense.
Yep.
You can meet, and you can now meet with 5-6 clients a day.
Yep.
Whereas if you're doing face-to-face, it's only maximum 1.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Wow.
And I think I have a huge advantage, and this is really like a great testimony and a great, kind of, and again, I don't want to boast and sound arrogant, but again, it's something that I think I do bring to the table as an American living and working in Germany, and being positive, having high energy, being very outgoing. A lot of colleagues that probably are much better consultants, much better coaches, have years and years more experience than I do, but they didn't make the shift online. Yeah, they couldn't connect with people virtually, so like via Zoom or WebEx or MS Teams or all whatever, because there you have to have so much more energy. You have to be a lot more, grabbing people, connecting with people in a virtual world, forcing them to turn on their cameras, forcing them to get personal, because that's where consulting, you have to get close with your clients so they trust you, so they share their stories, their heartaches, their successes, their failures. And so I think because I bring this enormous energy and I'm able to bring that online, it's been a huge advantage for me and an asset for me to have great reviews, great feedback from online projects that normally, and it's like online seminars. Who wants to visit an online workshop? I was like, no, I'd rather drive a dull spoon in my heart, kind of.
Exactly.
But it's like, no, it works, it's like, it's great. And we connect online. And so sure, you miss this face-to-face connection that you have when you have a coffee and then you go to the bar at night and eat, and drink as a group. But, that's missing, unfortunately. And so the online can never replace face-to-face, but it works. It works well. It is all we got for now, and so we're gonna make it, we're gonna rock it, and that's kind of my philosophy, and I love it. And absolutely love it.
You talked about this glass half full kind of mentality that you have, and I think there's an even more sort of modern way that I like to think about that concept, and it's more like, I don't have a catchphrase for it yet, but as much as that, but it's more about your reaction. And to tie in what you said about like not engaging, but acknowledging your negative feelings or negative stuff that happens to you. Bad stuff is going to happen to everyone. Everyone. It doesn't matter if you're Barack Obama or Britney Spears. Bad stuff happens to them too. Bad stuff's going to happen to you. And it's you have this choice, and I think not enough people realize that they are empowered with a choice to react. And depending on your reaction will depend the course of your life. I mean, ultimately, it depends on it determines the course of your life. And I think the more that people realize that, the better chance we have. And the better chance they have to, I mean, this, you just gave me the perfect example of that, I mean, your business, I mean, I'm sorry to kind of label it this, but it is kind of fringe. I would say my business is fringe too. But a lot of my opera singer colleagues, they did when COVID hit, they packed it in, and they got a job selling insurance, and you could have easily done that too. With the 4 kids, you could have just been like, hey, I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom for the next 4 years, and then we'll see what's up with COVID. I mean, you could have easily done that too. Just was like, I built this business and now it's not working, and I either have to like invest 5,000 euros or pack it in, or invest 5,000 hours. And it sounds like that's what you did. You invested the hours. And I was really fortunate, I think. One, that I have a huge, I couldn't do it without my husband. I mean, seriously, I think having a support system is really so important. And he's my biggest fan, biggest supporter, does so much for me and my business. And so that's great. But it was really this,
we're gonna sink or swim, but we're not getting out. That we're just we're gonna ride this out. And I guess that's something that I also have learned, kind of like you talking about this choice. Bad things do happen, things outside of our control, and things that we don't understand and that don't make sense. And it's like, and I think I've learned to accept those things, and that I don't have to understand, I don't have to control, I can't, and even to find the joy in the unknown, and not answer and not have all the answers. We don't have to. And yeah, last year 2021 was, for my business, great, but I did have some personal issues that were really, really hard. Friendships that that were really hard. And I think also there, it's like, why did this happen? Why was this huge conflict? This makes no sense. And this was so undeserving and just so painful. Yeah. And so, and even then, again, like the glass is half full. I've always been that kind of person. But now it's like, you know what? My glass is broken. And that's okay. It's not going to be it's not going to be broken forever. And just to really find the beauty in the brokenness. And I know that might kind of sound a little bit strange, like, what is she, a masochist? No, but just really that's life. And I think that's something we can't control. And again, humanity and we were talking about the beginning, and the media and this world, and we're so divisive, and and it's a broken world that we live in, but it's a beautiful world at the same time. And I think it's about both. It's a paradox, but paradoxes, they exist together. That's why they're a paradox, you know? And so it's about, I don't know, maybe it's crazy, and maybe it's a lesson or something. They're like, oh, well, that's clear. I don't know, but I'm at my age, 43, I'm learning it now, and I'm grateful for this lesson.
Yeah. And I'm, you said something that sparked another word for me, like motivation, is influence. How are we influenced by everything that happened, and how are we influenced by the media, and these are not questions we can solve in, a 1-2 hour podcast. I mean, like, these are things that we need to be talking about. Everybody needs to be talking about this stuff, and we need to be talking about it with our kids. Yep. We need to be talking about it with our families and our best friends. We need to push our political leanings to the side and just say, I don't care what your political leaning is. Yeah. I love you. Yeah. You're my mom. You're my dad. You're my cousin. You're my brother or sister, and I'm into you. I lean towards you, and let's find some common ground here. And let's understand. Let's try to understand what is influencing us. What is influencing this decision for you? Yeah. What is influencing this mood for you, or whatever? And I mean, now it's kind of influence, influence now has this sort of stereotypical thing where, we call these like the influencers.
I know, I can't stand it. But, no, you're right. I think there are always these forces that exist that manage to push us in one direction or the other. And that's what, being influenced is all about, being pushed in one direction or the other. And I think, right. I like what you said too. We have to talk about it. We have to take it serious. And again, it's not to sound cliche, but who said it? I don't know. Brene Brown, maybe, or someone. Make kindness great again, or make empathy great again. I don't know.
My gosh, that's great.
Right?
But that was recent. Like, it's a play on Trump's Make America Great Again.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no.
Make empathy great again.
Yeah, and I think that's really what we need to do. And it's just find that human connection. And sure, I know there'll always be conflict, and there'll be political conflict. I mean, look at, Russia and Ukraine right now. I mean, where are you? Like, it's like, it's crazy. Yeah. And so there'll always be that. But again, I think if humans manage to humble themselves and just come together eye to eye, like you said, I love you, I see you, I appreciate you. We don't have to agree on everything, but you're valuable. You are worthy. You are worth something. And definitely. We're on the same page.
There we go.
High five.
Well, what do you think? It's a good time to wrap it up. How long have we been going?
It is 5:45. I don't know, a couple of hours. an hour and a half. I don't know. Yeah. No,
good stuff.
No, this has been great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for the whiskey, and
Absolutely.
thanks for the chat.
Yeah. So everyone, if you want to see Sarah Reichert's website, anything like that, it's like sarahreichert.com.
sarahreichert.com and Sarah Reichert coaching on Instagram. I don't know. You can probably include it in your notes or something.
I'll put all that in the show notes.
There you go.
She is awesome. Promise to come back?
Yes, I will. Definitely.
Right.
This has been loads of fun, Eric. You're awesome too. There you go.
Bye. All right, everybody. Take care.
Bye. Cool.